Have you ever caught yourself late at night just looking at your phone? Then you look at the time, 2:27 a.m. Surely that's not right. You check again, 2:28 a.m. I've been lying here for 4 hours. Where has the time gone? It takes your brain a few hours to calm down after all the mindless shit that you were just ingesting. Scroll after scroll, a little giggle. Scroll for hours. You see, the thing is, you then have the audacity to say, I don't have the time to start the business. I don't have the time to study more, to create that blog, or to do anything. Now, I'm not here to judge, but the reason I only emphasize this is because I needed to hear it 3 years ago when I kind of started my journey. One of my friends, I was speaking to him. Basically, I was in a tough period of my life and nothing was really getting done. I was trying to be busy, but it almost felt like I was struggling to get stuff done when deep down I knew they should have got done. And I asked him, like, how do you get so much done every day? And he replied with this message that has stuck with me ever since. And basically he just said, let's look at your screen time. And I say this because, time is the most valuable resource that you have as a human being. And unfortunately, your time is non-renewable. So that means when you run out of time, you run out of time, unfortunately. And the thing is, we all have the same time. We all have 24 hours in a day. Even the most successful people in the world have the exact same amount of time as you do. But somehow they can get more done in their day than you can. And this is key, because the reason why they get more done is because their inputs are better. Now, in this video today, we're going to talk about, why better inputs create better outputs, and how you can create those better inputs so that you can get more outputs on the back end. So I'm certainly guilty of the stuff that I've talked about in this video already. Admittedly, it has got better since my friend sent me that message and since I've kind of been a little more focused. But this idea came into my brain because it took me about 3 years of work to realise that I wasn't really doing any work. I was, creating content or learning these skills, but I was never really putting them into action. And since I adopted this new outlook on inputs and outputs, my whole, outlook on what work has completely changed. And I feel like what I've learned may help you in your journey to success in entrepreneurship or whatever it may be. But the main theme is, what you put in is what you get out. This can be applied in all areas of life, but I want to first explain why that's the case. So I just finished this book, The Power of Now, a very, very deep book, let's say, pretty, a guide to spiritual enlightenment. You might be turned away by reading that, and it took me about 2 years to read the book. Now, it's not because I can't read, it's because I wanted to take it in and really learn from that piece of writing. And it took me 2 years because when I started the book, I wasn't in the right place of mind to read it. And now, after another setback, I felt like it was the perfect time to read it. And there was a quote in the book that was pretty powerful for me. There's many quotes, but this one in particular, I'm going to read it out to you. Remember that your perception of the world is a reflection of your state of consciousness. I'll repeat that. Remember that your perception of the world is a reflection of your state of consciousness. If your state of consciousness is filled with mindless, meaningless videos, i.e. TikTok, and maybe Instagram too, there is no way that this is enhancing your state of consciousness. Now, I think the key thing here is, how do we enhance our state of consciousness with social media? because you can be guilty of, mindlessly scrolling on Instagram, going on the explore page, or TikTok, obviously your For You page, or even Pinterest, or YouTube is another one. You can just go on YouTube just to have some noise in the background. But are these things going to enhance your state of consciousness? That's the real question you need to ask yourself. And there's a couple of things that I do that will definitely enhance your state of consciousness and enhance your being, almost. The first one is you need to start reading. Read a book. Like, I obviously read this one, but I have a whole host of other books that I've read over the past couple of years, and that I'm going to read now over the next couple of months. I just started another one on kind of like marketing and things like that. And it's almost like you can learn from someone who's already done it. This gives you a upper hand on other people, because again, this completely changed my way of thinking. And it's the exact same with some other books that I've read. They've completely altered the way my brain works. And I would never have learned that if I hadn't actually sat down and read it. It's almost like it's completely different in terms of watching a YouTube video. It's just so easy to sit there and take it in, and hence why some of the stuff doesn't go into your brain. Whereas if you read, it almost is, it's harder so that it goes into your brain and it's ingrained in you more easily. Fucking get out and read books, man. They're actually cool. And if you do have any recommendations, I am looking for more. Like I said, I started a new marketing book, but I do want more recommendations. And if you have any, just leave them in the comments. I'll reply. The second thing is go for a walk. Now you might think, oh, well, of course I need to go walk, I need to train, I need to exercise, but there's something key about going for walks. Now, unfortunately, because of the injury, I've had to stop going for walks. Before, I was walking every single day, just going for a little, maybe 20-30 minute walk every night or every morning. I'm certainly missing it. But it's so important to get your steps in. Obviously for the physical benefit of it, lose weight and all that stuff, get healthier, but going for a walk and leaving your headphones in your room and just taking in your surroundings and being one with nature, being out there in the world, is so key and so important, because it gives you time to think to yourself and think for yourself. Sometimes we find that when we scroll too much, we end up adopting other people's opinions and other people's thoughts on the world. And because we never are away from our phones and never away from this technology, we can almost struggle to think for ourselves. So it's so key to really be at one with yourself. And how you do this is go out on your own, go for a walk, think deeply about yourself, about your situation, and sometimes that actually gives you a bit of motivation to go on and succeed, because you realize where you are in your life right now, and you realize where you want to be, and you see there's a big gap. So that only happens when you really have time to think for yourself. And for me, that happens very easily when I go for a walk without my headphones. The third thing is kind of hypocritical of me saying, but after the last point, but the third thing is go listen to a podcast. Now, of course, you can listen to my podcast called Tusik Talks. I'll leave the link down below. But you can also listen to, obviously, some of the most famous people and your favourite creators. For me, I love like humour and stuff. Like, obviously it's quite deep and long, obviously, but you can get a lot of information from it. Chris Williamson brings on some great guests, and I've started listening to another one, Kickoff Sessions, by Darren Lee. He's an Irish guy as well, so it's cool to hear his voice and obviously the accent, and it almost feels like you're in the room because of the common accent. But he brings on amazing guests in kind of like the online space. I really recommend that podcast. But again, this is just enhancing your brain, enhancing your thought patterns. I listened to, I think, 3 podcasts in the last 3 days. Maybe one was on growing and scaling your business. One was like on content, and one was on like ads and stuff like that. And it was just like, I would never have learned that type of stuff if it wasn't for getting access to these people who are extremely knowledgeable in their scene and in their business. And again, you would never have got access to these people if you hadn't have been listening to them on this podcast. So it's completely free, man. Think about it. It's completely free. You can go on YouTube. If you have Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, you can get them there. But this is just listening to something that, when you're going for your walk or if you're in the car, it's listening to something that's going to teach you something new. And again, I really think that having a podcast that is kind of like in your space or in your niche, or things that you can learn, whether it's marketing, whether it's business, whether it's sport, whether it's mindset, all those type of things, it's so important to be able to take all this information in, because it's readily available. You might as well use it, And the last thing is go and learn something new, whether that be learning a language. I learned Spanish in school. I have Irish from being younger, and it's like I have these kind of periods where I can switch into these different languages if I need to speak to someone, or if you're listening to someone on the radio. It's such a cool thing to be able to converse with different people from different cultures. So go learn a language, man. It's difficult, but again, that's the whole point. It can be the same when it comes to like learning a new skill. Nowadays, you can learn a trade, which is key, and we're never gonna run out of the need for having a trade, whether that be a barber or electrician or things like that. You're always going to have a job, basically. But the newer age skills are very, very interesting, and over the next couple of years will be an important thing to have. Whether that be creating content, social media, learning how to edit, things like that. Whether that be copywriting, something that I'm kind of diving into right now. And all these things can be learned through YouTube. You don't realize the extent of how much information is out there on the internet. For you as a beginner or for you as an intermediate, you can search up as broad or as narrow a topic as you want, and you will probably find a YouTube video on it. And understand that you're not good at the start. Like it's going to happen. You're going to be poor at the start. And over time, you develop the skill, and you practice and you practice and you practice. Eventually you get to a point where you're competent in the skill. It's such a cool feeling, because you can look back and say, wow, like look how much I've learned. And this can be like I said, be applied to a language, like a new skill, or anything really. Go on YouTube and look and find videos that are going to teach you something new. One of the most important things you can do is replace the doom scrolling that you do with micro learning. I don't know where I've seen that, but change the times where you're just scrolling mindlessly to times where you're maybe learning something. And unfortunately, the short form type of content is hard to like learn deeply. Yes, it kind of gives you an introduction to certain topics, but I think long form is the best way to learn kind of real information. I want to leave you with this. You want to be a high performer. You want to be successful. Think of your brain as a Ferrari, a red supercar. You want to be sharp, you want to be fast, you want to be agile. Now, would you fill the tank with shitty fuel? Would you fill the tank of your Ferrari with shitty fuel? You probably wouldn't, unless you're cheap. But you need to treat your brain the exact same way. You need to fill it with knowledge. You need to fill it with stuff that is going to enhance your consciousness. The only way you're going to do this is by, like I said, doing all those 4 things: learning new skills, thinking deeply to yourself. And all these inputs will help the output. So, if you put into your brain stuff like this book, or the marketing stuff, or learning a new skill, all of that will translate into better outputs and translate into you creating more. Whether that be your business, whether that be creating your blog, whether that be being able to study more and understand more complex topics. Because if you fill your brain with the meaningless, mindless shit, there's no way that you're going to be able to maintain a high level of consciousness, because ultimately it just drains it. It drains it completely. So fill your brain with stuff that's going to increase your level of consciousness. I'll see you in the next one.